Antarctica isn't empty. It only feels that way. It's a continent larger than Europe, bigger than our maps make it seem. So wide that the horizon becomes a wall of white. No cities, no trees, no animals, just ice, wind, and distance. In the early 21st century, one man believed he could cross it alone. Not with dogs, not with a support team, and not with food dropped ahead by aircraft. Just his body, a sled, and his discipline. His name was Henry Worsley. This isn't a story about winning. It's about what happens when the strongest human resolve meets the oldest human limitation. Henry Worsley wasn't a reckless adventurer. He was a British Army officer, a lieutenant colonel trained for planning, patience, and controlled suffering. A husband, a father, a man whose life depended on clear decisions under pressure. In the military, confidence is useful, but discipline is survival. Worsley lived by that. For years, he studied Antarctic exploration the way a soldier studies battles, not as legends, but as lessons. He read Shackleton's journals, paying attention to what people usually skip, not the speeches, the calculations, food rations, weight limits, route choices. What broke first? The body, the morale, or the plan? In the modern era, people still travel across Antarctica, but many do it with resupply drops, or use kites to help pull their sleds. Others have teams moving alongside them. These are still brutal, dangerous journeys, but Worsley wanted to attempt something that left no ambiguity. A solo, unsupported, unassisted crossing. Those three words are everything. Solo, no one to share decisions with. Unsupported, no outside food, no drops, no help. Unassisted, no kites, no engines, nothing that turns effort into advantage, just a man walking on ice. If he succeeded, it would be one of the hardest pure journeys in modern exploration. If he failed, there would be no one else to blame. The plan was precise. He would start at Berkner Island, walk across the continent, pass through the South Pole, and continue to the far side, over 1,500 kilometers, pulling a sled that started at over 150 kilograms, loaded with everything he needed to survive. Every calorie was calculated, every day projected, every contingency considered. On paper, it was possible. But on paper, most impossible things are. Antarctica doesn't negotiate with paper. Temperatures drop below -40. Winds can exceed 60 miles per hour. And snow hides crevasses that can swallow a man without a sound. But the greatest danger isn't the dramatic kind. It's the quiet kind. The slow erosion of strength. The slow tightening of margins. The slow moment you realize your plan is becoming a prayer. On November 14, 2015, Henry Worsley stepped onto the ice. No crowd, no ceremony, just white in every direction. From the first hours, he learned again what polar explorers always learn. Walking isn't the hard part. Walking while pulling your entire world behind you is. The sled resisted every step like a second gravity. He leaned into the harness and forced it forward, his legs and hips burning, his lungs pulling in air so cold it felt sharp. At night, pitching the tent was a race against numbness. Remove your gloves for just a few seconds, and your fingers could lose sensation fast enough to become useless. Even eating was labor, melting snow for water, managing fuel, keeping gear from freezing solid. The early phase went well. He made steady progress, following a strict routine: wake, melt snow, eat measured rations, pack, walk for hours, repeat. He sent short, calm, professional satellite updates. But even in the calm, Antarctica asks a question: how long can you do this? Every single day, with no change. As he climbed onto the Antarctic plateau, the surface changed. Smooth snow became sastrugi-jagged, wind-carved ridges of hard ice that turned forward motion into punishment. They forced detours, caught the sled runners, and stole kilometers. A day that should have been productive became a day of fighting the ground itself. This is where modern expeditions begin to depend on margins. And Worsley's margins were shrinking. When your pace slows, the math changes. He was burning more energy than planned. And in Antarctica, you can't just push harder to fix that. Pushing harder burns more fuel, more food resources you don't have. So he made the most dangerous adjustment. He began rationing his food earlier than intended. That is how polar expeditions quietly die. Not in storms, but in arithmetic. Because once the body goes into a deep deficit, recovery is almost impossible. Your muscles weaken, your immune system fades, your mind gets slower. You start making small errors that cost more energy. The downward spiral isn't dramatic, it's inevitable. Weeks later, the South Pole appeared a point of color in the endless white, a station people warmth, a place where he could have ended the expedition and still been celebrated. Many would have stopped, but Worsley didn't come to be almost. He had built his identity around completion, around the idea that discipline means finishing what you start. He paused briefly, not long enough to let comfort rewrite his mission, and then he turned away from safety and walked back into isolation. The crossing was only half done. The plateau is deceptive. It looks easy because it's flat, but psychologically, flatness is cruelty. No landmarks, no hills to conquer, no turns that feel like progress, just white and wind and repetition. The mind starts measuring life in small rituals. How long until you can stop walking? How much fuel remains? How many meals are left? How much weight you've lost? And the body begins to speak louder. Worsley's weight dropped fast. His legs weakened. Pain appeared in his abdomen. In extreme cold, pain can hide or even feel normal. But the body knows when it's breaking. It sends signals you can ignore until one day you can't. Here is what Duffet does in the cold. When you stop feeding the engine eats itself. Fat disappears, then muscle. Your gait changes, your balance shifts. Small hills become steep. The cold magnifies everything. You need calories just to stay warm. So every day becomes a choice. Use energy to move, or use energy to survive. For weeks, Worsley tried to do both. He continued to report calmly. But inside that calm, a harder truth was forming. No amount of willpower can replace food. Motivation cannot repair tissue. Discipline cannot defeat biology forever. The question was no longer, can I endure? The question became, if I continue, will I die out here? Eventually, the numbers became undeniable. Even with maximum discipline, he would not reach the coast. He was still walking. But Antarctica was no longer being crossed. It was being endured. And at that stage, endurance becomes something darker, a slow trade of life for distance. On January 22, 2016, after 71 days alone, Henry Worsley made the decision he had built his entire expedition to avoid. He radioed for help. A rescue aircraft was dispatched. And when it reached him, the brutality of the situation was almost unbearable in its simplicity. He was just 50 kilometers from the finish. 50, after walking across an entire continent. 50 kilometers remained. This is the cruel irony of extreme goals. The end can be visible, and still be impossible, because the body doesn't care how close you are. It only cares what it can do today. And that day, Worsley could not do it anymore. He was evacuated to Chile. And here, the contrast becomes devastating. After weeks of silence, he was inside engines, voices, machines. After weeks of cold, he was inside warmth. After weeks of isolation, he was surrounded by people trying to save him. Doctors diagnosed extreme exhaustion, severe dehydration, and bacterial peritonitis, a dangerous abdominal infection that can become fatal when the immune system collapses. Despite treatment, his body could not recover. On January 24, 2016, Henry Worsley died. He was 55 years old. He didn't die in a storm. He didn't fall into a crevasse. He didn't die in cinematic tragedy. He died in the quiet aftermath of accumulated damage, the kind of damage that doesn't look heroic, the kind that simply says, you went too far. There are places on Earth where technology does not erase the old rules. Antarctica has not been conquered. It has only been approached. The continent doesn't fight you. It doesn't chase you. It waits. It lets you spend your strength. And when your strength is gone, it offers no mercy and no malice, only silence. Antarctica remains silent, but Henry Worsley's footsteps are still there, frozen into the ice. A line of effort across a continent that refuses to be owned. A reminder that some goals don't end in success or failure. They end in payment. And Henry Worsley paid with everything he had. Thanks for watching.